Welcome back to Financial Independence 101. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about bankruptcies reaching a record high. This is a problem. It's 2024. We have been in a depression, but it's been covered up by a lot of fake numbers, but really everything coming out of our government for numbers are fake. And every administration, both Republicans, Democrats, they're going to try to make numbers look as good as they can. But right now, if you just know that we are down in GDP. It says it's up, but it's up less than inflation, and they're not counting all of these fake wars, the fake money printing, the real money printing for fake wars. But all this stuff is reaching ahead, and bankruptcies are happening, and I'm going to talk about this record high bankruptcies coming up. So there was an interesting article in Forbes, and basically what they were saying is that all these bankruptcies that we're seeing, it's kind of like the Titanic. And the Titanic, these are titans that were sailing, and now they're sinking like a Titanic, which is kind of how they put it together. But since 2000, the 52% of Fortune 500 companies have been replaced or no longer exist. A titan of business to a burning Titanic. And then number one is failure to ignore warnings. And there's a lot of things to see here, but the way I kind of look at it, it's businesses, companies, and even individuals. They are chugging along when things are good, and they don't start to notice that things are turning not so good. Maybe sales are down a little bit, and you're thinking, well, we're just not doing enough. Let's spend more money on advertising, spend more money on all of these other things. Let's expand more. We need to get ourselves. And that's kind of the problem that is a problem with capitalism, is that there's always that expectation from investors to be better next year than we were last year and just keep growing. But if the base isn't growing, if the customers don't have enough money to continue to spend like they were, then you're not going to keep growing. So those are unrealistic expectations, and some warning signs we saw coming out of 2020 turn into a boom in 2020, but a bust in 2023 and 2024. The no binoculars seeing going forward. So like the collision of the iceberg. But the no binoculars is saying that we saw this all coming. I talked about it, but on another channel. When you're in 2020 and you get the helicopter money and every place is running out of product because people are sitting at home ordering and they're doing different things. Their lifestyle is different. Once it opens back up, those people aren't buying those same things. And when companies continue to overproduce on these items, then they have an excess stock. They have to clearance it. They start taking losses on that. And then now we're in this bankruptcy situation where companies are going bankrupt because they didn't have the binoculars to see that, hey, we're not going to have this elevated sales for a long time. The next is the failure 3 is previous success might destroy your ambitions. And you see that's a good one right there, where you see a lot of companies that have been successful and they're like, well, let's just keep doing what we've always done. And that's not going to work. Now, I am one that I absolutely hate the pickup orders at Walmart and Target. I hate that a third of the parking spots are now given to those. And it's just, you got to park way out. I mean, I don't mind walking or anything, but I want to efficiently get my errands run and not have to park 27 spaces out to park every time I park. But I just say, hey, we'll get a little more exercise. That's great. But I mean, those companies are trying to stay relevant and come up with things, or maybe they know something I don't. But when companies don't try to change and they don't try to do things different, or individuals don't try to change or do things different, then they kind of stay in the past and things change. Kind of like IBM. If IBM still made the same computers they did back in the day, they would have gone under. And they actually struggled for a long time. They had to revamp several times. I'll do a little bit of a bankruptcy breakdown here. Bankruptcies are up in the first half of the year and in 2024. And bankruptcies are normal. There's normally bankruptcies filed every year, but not to the level that we have been seeing, like 34% increase. A dramatic turn in the U.S. economy. Commercial bankruptcies have soared in the first half of 2024, marking a significant increase from the previous year, according to the data released by the Epic Acer, a provider of bankruptcy data. And total of 3,016 commercial Chapter 11 bankruptcies were filed in the first 6 months of 2024, which represents a striking 34% rise compared to the 2247 recorded during the same period, 2023. Now, I didn't find the data of how much expense is involved in these. You got to think about it. If you look at, they say a 34% increase, but 2,200 and then 800 more than that's already been filed. That is crazy. That is a lot. So that'd be like 1,600 a year more than there was in 2023. In 2023, there were more than in 2022, and more in 2020. It's still more than 2020. Small businesses grappling with economic uncertainties have been particularly hit hard, and yeah, that's crazy. Small businesses are seeing a staggering 61% increase. 2 bits of data I want to take out of here is saying that what we're seeing with commercial filings is greater than individual filings. But here's the reason why, because generally the individual filings lag the economy by 18 months. We see this all the time. In all these economic indicators, there's an 18-month lag when it comes to something like this. Nobody really wants to file bankruptcy. I mean, I understand it's a tool, but you have 7 years of no credit. There's a lot of problems with filing bankruptcy, but bankruptcies are up right now. Combined, it's showing that we're about 15% up from last year if you combine corporate and individual and all that kind of stuff. The problem is the corporate bankruptcies right now will lead to more individual bankruptcies because there's just less jobs, and they keep playing with the jobs numbers, and this is going to lead to less jobs. But yet, I'm starting to want to dig into the jobs, because I'm thinking that this 1099K thing that they're setting up for $600 of sales is going to count that as a job. They're going to say, oh, because you sold $700 worth of stuff online, that's one of your jobs. You got 5 jobs. You got 8 jobs. I mean, they're counting as 8 jobs. That's really not right. And that's not how it ever was done. And that's why the wool's pulled over everyone's eyes, how bad the economy is. And bankruptcy filings are expected to continue. So this is the rest of the story, the rest of the year. And they're projecting 15% year over year, while Chapter 13 filings, which allow individuals to restructure their debt, are expected to increase by 10.61% year over year, which I don't really understand why, if it's already a certain percentage so far, why would you expect it to be less? But they have all their data and stuff to look at. But this is the beginning. This is where they're still telling you these are the good times. I do want to show this chart to kind of explain this. So when we had the 08 and 09, that whole Great Recession, look at the bankruptcies there. Now, this is when they thought the whole world was falling apart. And even that didn't feel quite like the Depression. But look where we're at in 2024. We are almost there. The whole 2020 thing it's an artificial economic disaster that happened in the 2020 area. That's artificial. That was forced by hand for those to close down, and some of them had to file bankruptcy because they couldn't pay their bills. They weren't expecting. A lot of those businesses couldn't last 2 or 3 months closed without filing bankruptcy, but they were forced to close against their own concern. And if they were open, they wouldn't have had enough people going out and eating there. It wouldn't have happened. It was a forced bankruptcy situation in 2020. Now, looking at 2024, there's no mandates to stay home, and it's climbing. I mean, it's going straight up. This is the best indicator to show you what's really going on. And when you look at, say, look at 2008, 2007, at the very beginning of this, like, oh, it's going up. Well, at the tippy top peak, where's the tippy top peak of this going to be for bankruptcy filings weekly? This is insane. This 4-week moving average and the weekly, this is insane, and it's just going to get way, way worse. So what do you do to weather a recession or depression? And this is a nice little chart here, but it's kind of oversimplifying things. But don't panic. Take a look at your finances. Take a look at your finances. Get to know what you're spending your money on and decide, do you really need to spend your money on this? Get on a budget, and then help your emergency fund, leave your investments alone. I wouldn't say that. So I'm positioning, I think a lot of the institutions are positioning into gold and cash. Pay down your debt. Definitely, I would always advise that. Pay down debt. Debt can turn on you, and then reevaluate your job situation. If you've got a good job, I would always say stick with a good job that's paying well right now, because jobs are not as easy to come by as they used to be. So there's a lot to. What would your emergency fund be? And a lot of people argue whether it should be 3 months, 6 months. I think you should have a year. But I mean, that's just what I've done. I could go a year. Well, I've gone 6 years, I guess, without a job. But I could go a year without a job, no problem. Not having a job and dealing with this recession. But leaving your investments alone, I would definitely reevaluate. We could see a downturn, a rug pull, and there's a prophet that's predicting the rug getting pulled from this. But I feel like the rug's already been pulled, and the bubble gum and popsicle sticks are only holding it in place for so long. Anyway, this cycle of bankruptcies is going to continue, and it's a spiral out of control, because the more companies that go under and the less jobs there are, the more people that are unemployed, the less people are able to buy stuff from other companies like Amazon, who's starting to struggle now, or has been struggling in silent, and Walmart, who's lowering prices because they're struggling. And you're going to see that they're going to have less and less sales because less people have money to buy, and it's going to continue that way, and more bankruptcies, and then less jobs, and that's just how it goes. So protect yourself, protect your assets. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Financial Independence out.